Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Unfound Podcast Channel. I am Unfound's host, Ed Denzel. As the title says, this is a video that will be a supplemental to the episode that came out on May 14th, 2021, The Disappearance of Brian Shaffer. And before I get started, please like this video, give it the thumbs up as you are watching it. If you're not yet a subscriber to the Unfound Podcast Channel, I hope you will consider doing so. And if you are a subscriber, please hit the little bell button so that you get alerted when we upload new videos, which is quite often. You're probably looking at the screen and thinking, well, why are we looking at a mound of dirt there, Ed? Well, I'm going to show you how new this property was where Brian disappeared from, where he was last seen at the Ugly Tuna Saloona on April 1st of 2006. What you're looking at is the address 1549 North High Street in Columbus. Now, you should know the Ugly Tuna still exists, but it moved to a new location actually fairly recently. But we're in this video, at least this right now, what you're looking at, this is not regular Google Maps. This is actually a program, Google Earth Pro, which is free. I would urge anybody who is interested in missing persons cases to have this program on their laptop, on their tablet. Maybe you can even get it for your phone. I use it quite often, although I don't use it often for these videos that I've made. But the reason I use it is because you can do what they call historical imagery for satellite photos. We know in regular Google Maps, you can do Street View, which will take you back several years. In fact, we will be doing that eventually in this video. But to be able to do historical imagery going back several years from satellite photos, you need to have Google Earth Pro. And so that is what you're looking at. As you can see up here in the upper left-hand corner, let me use right up here, you can see that this is actually a picture from July of 2003. And so this is not quite 3 years before Brian disappeared. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this bar right here to show you how this area went from that to what it became in 2006, 2007. So let me move it up. There is July of 2004. So you can see that is actually the parking garage for the facility. We move up. It's the more north building is being made. And then finally, you can see some semblance of it being completed. Let's see if I can go back a little bit. There is December of 2004 and August of 2005. You can see this building actually right here is where the Ugly Tuna Saloon was. This is also, though, a building associated with this property. This is actually a parking garage off to the east or right. And then we move to July of 2006. So this is actually after Brian disappeared, just a few months after he disappeared. So this is what it looked like from a satellite view in 2006. Now, the reason I'm showing this once again is to show you how new this property was when Brian went missing. It was only, a couple years old. Just a couple years old. That's it. But much has been made about this construction that was going on at the time on the property. And that catches my ear because for the most part, it seems, at least from satellite photos, is that the place where people actually ate or drank and whatever else was in this shop, in this complex, it seems like this is done. But you will notice over here to the east side, to the right side, there's still some work being done on the edge around here. And this photo is from August 2005. And if we move up to the next picture of July 2006, you can see that that's all been completed. Now, what they were doing there in going to a street view is they were finishing this parking garage on this one side, and they were putting in, I think they were redoing this road right here, and they were putting in some trees that you can see them grow from 2006 up to the present. They were just little saplings at the time, and now they're full-blown trees 15 years later. So when they talk about construction that was going on at the property at the time, it's been mentioned a lot of times, even and of course in my interview with Kelly, that it's a puzzlement to me as to where exactly this construction was. I think we've all been led to believe this was construction that was going on right here at the building at the time. Like, any of these ways you went off, there was some sort of construction going on. I can find no proof of that on Google Maps, whether through satellite or on Street View from the time. But what I can find is proof that there was construction of some type, work going on, digging over here, not quite a year before he went missing. So roughly, 8 months before he went missing. And maybe there was still work being done here. It's just a little hard for me to understand that they built this whole new complex. It looks like it's done, but then there's still construction going on in this area. Did they go back and change something after all of this was done? Maybe. I can't find any proof of that. Okay, that doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I can find no proof of that. All I can see is this construction that's going on the edge of the property, which of course is a parking garage away from where Brian was, where the Ugly Tuna Saloona was at the time. Maybe they were doing something to this alleyway, maybe something over here. I can find no pictures or video of that using Google Maps, historical imagery, etc. So this is, so we go up, here it is in 2007, and we can go the whole way up to the most recent video or picture, and that is from October of 2019. And now you can see that complex as it is today, but I do not believe at this point Ugly Tuna Saloona is there anymore. So wanted to show you how it went from being nothing to something. Possible construction that was going on. You can even see better those trees. You can really see that they're trees. Now, this is where the construction that I could see was going on of just a few months before Brian disappeared from this building over here. And I would urge all of you, once again, if you're interested in disappearances and checking out streets and buildings as they were several years ago, you need to get Google Earth Pro. I would certainly recommend that. Well, now I'm going to switch over to Google Maps, the regular Google Maps that I use for these videos, and I'm going to continue the video from there. So let's click over. All right, so there we go. This is now, and I'm going to take all these labels off here because that just clouds the picture. Okay, easier to see. Put it in the center for you. Once again, we have the parking garage. You can now see these trees. This is a fairly recent picture. And this is the complex. And as you can see, there are many ways that Brian could have left. It very well could be that Brian left in a variety of directions. And I've already made my point on the episode that I have a lot of doubts about the ability to watch video and see anything on them, especially at night. We have to remember that it's 2 a.m, and how good was this video really back in 2006? I think that's a huge question mark that everybody has to ask themselves. I think it's kind of just been taken for granted over the last 15 years. And I'm going to give you an example of that by using Google Street View, and then I'm going to take you back. We're going to go back in the time machine, I guess you could say, to 2006. So I go up here to Street View you can't see it on your screen, but we're now looking at August of 2007. So approximately a year and a half after Brian disappeared from this building that is off right here. This is the Ugly Tuna Saloona building right there. In fact, there we go. We can really zoom in. That's the first floor. Of course, we know that he was on the second floor. So let me zoom back out. And get back to the street. And you can even see, if we zoom in on that photo right there, if it's going to allow me to do this. I hate this. And there's somebody right outside my door doing something. You can see the tuna sign right there. Now, if we were to go to a very recent picture, you will see that this sign is missing. And it's not there anymore. You notice that sign that was right there? It's not there anymore because the Ugly Tuna, this is the Ugly Tuna right here. But it's not there anymore. It's been moved, I think, east of this location for some reason. I don't know what that is. But taking you once again back to 2007, now we're October 2007, I'm going to show you possibly one of the videos or video cameras that could have been used to kind of show you, could have been used to try to track Brian, and that is this. Why does it keep doing that? We can see this camera right up here. It's at this corner. Now that is way up in the air. And we have to remember that it's night. This is a camera that existed, I believe, at the time that the building was built. I believe it would have been there in 2006, April of 2006. And I can tell you this, there's no way, as high as that camera is, that it would have been able to identify anybody, especially at night. One of the misconceptions I think people have about these cameras is that people think these cameras are meant to identify people. They aren't. Not even in 2021 are they meant to identify people. They are just to keep an eye on people. Okay, pardon that interruption. Little did I know that I would start doing this video and they would start doing some construction or some maintenance right outside my condo here. So, getting back to this. My point is that this camera right here, these types of cameras are not meant to identify people. They are only to be used to see people, not identify people. These cameras are not meant to be able to look at two people on the street and be able to say that's John Doe fighting with Tom Smith. All they're really meant to do is to say there are two guys on the street and they're fighting and I have to call somebody. That's it. And then it may be that by analysis of that video, those two men can be identified. But more likely, it's going to be a variety of different ways that those two men are identified. And maybe they're witnesses. There may be other cameras in the area that have better clarity. There might have been evidence left at the scene, like a driver's license, on and on and on. It's just not based on one camera that's like 30 feet above the ground that you could look at people and say who they are. And I think many of you have watched enough YouTube videos of convenience store robberies, etc., that a lot of times you can't tell. Of course, if they're wearing a mask or hat, a hoodie or whatever, then it's impossible. Even people who don't use any sort of covering, sometimes it's very difficult. And the police have to use a variety of different means to identify who that person is. So this is just an example of one camera that was surely there in 2006. If they did get video It might have come from this camera, but it's 30 feet off the street and it's night. Now, I ask you, how well do you think that video was from this particular camera back in 2006? I'm going to guess it was not good enough to be able to tell Brian Shaffer or anybody else, man or woman, it doesn't matter their age, ethnicity, race, anything. That's what I would say. So, getting back into this is the area. So let's go around the corner here and go to where this parking garage is. Down this way. Here's the parking garage, and here's and there's what it looked like in 2007, August 2007. And I think you can easily see if Brian did find a way, either by purpose or by accident or anything else, that there are doors on the back of this building that he could have come out and walked right out here, and I don't think that any camera would have seen him. That is my assessment I've never been there. Full disclosure, I've never been here, and I know that some people have. I know that Kelly has been here. She's gone around, she's taken pictures, etc. And I think that's great. I do not live in the area. For example, from a month ago or even longer ago, Kaya Taylor, when she disappeared over in Plant City, I was able to go there, get pictures, get video from the area, and I think that's the right thing to do. But I don't live in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm just using Google to the best of my abilities, and I think going around this area, I don't think it's that crazy to believe that all these stories we've been told about video and everything else are necessarily true, especially given it's 15 years ago, given that it was night, given that I showed you at least one example of where a camera is way high off the ground. I think it really calls into question whether these cameras, any of these cameras could have identified anybody, especially on the outside of the building. This building itself, as you will see, is not that big. Yes, it's 2 stories, but here's the building, and it's like, 120 feet by 120 feet. It's not that big. 120 feet, what is that, 40 yards? And it's 2 levels. It's not that big of a building, and not hard to search. Probably would not have needed a lot of cameras to cover if that's what they did. And we know there's at least one camera on this inside that shows the escalator. But I think even over the last 15 years, our attitude toward cameras have changed. We know with the technology, with the memory, and everything else, how video can be stored for hours and hours, days, weeks, years, forever and ever, with not using a lot of memory space. Things have changed since 2006, as things changed between 2006 and 15 years before that in 1991. Things change, technology changes. But I have to admit that in looking at this, and I think this is the first time that I've ever really done a really in-depth look at this area. I've known about Brian's disappearance like all of you. I'm wondering if all of this stuff about how a guy walks into a bar, of course, that's how a lot of jokes start. This whole thing about how a guy walks into a bar and never leaves, has this been sensationalized? Have people, for purposes of getting attentions, maybe not podcasts, because this happened well before podcasts were a thing, TV shows, websites, things like that existed in 2006, Did they overplay this video angle because it caught people's attention and not because it's necessarily true? I think that is something that we all have to take away from Unfound's coverage of this disappearance. That it very well may be that this whole thing about Brian going in and never coming out is just a story. And it might not even, it's obviously not true. He's somewhere and he's certainly not in that building. And it very well may be, as I stated in the episode, that what I think I now know about videos of looking at a lot of them over the last 4.5 years is that there's no way with any assurity or assuredness any person could have looked at the video from this and say, yeah, Brian's not in any of them. I just don't believe that. Okay. So that is this video supplemental for the disappearance of Brian Shaffer as covered by Unfound on May 14th of 2021. Thank you for watching.